Hello.
Hi, Angela. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing
I
today?
am doing well, thank you.
Well, I know who you are, but for those listening, could you tell us who you are and what you do here?
Sure. First, I would like to thank you and thanks, Alexander, for inviting me into this conversation on Catholic social teaching. So, my name is Felix Navarrete, and I am the coordinator for Hispanic Ministry office here at the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. It's only been 8 months since I accepted the position, but so far I'm very grateful for having the opportunity to serve our Latino and Hispanic community here in Indianapolis in southern Indiana. I was born and raised Catholic in the capital city of Managua in Nicaragua. I am a lawyer of profession and I am married. I have 4 kids, and we've been living in Indianapolis for only 5 years.
Okay. Well, even though it's only been 8 months, we are very happy to have you here in the Catholic Center.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Angela Espada. I'm the executive director of the Indiana Catholic Conference, and we're having conversations about Catholic social teaching. And for those of you who may have listened to previous conversations, or for those who are listening now for the first time, I didn't learn about Catholic social teaching until as a formal, it all put together type of a doctrine until a few years ago. When did you first hear about Catholic social teaching as a construct?
Sure. Well, yeah. Like I mentioned before, I went to law school in a Catholic university. So the teachings of the social doctrine of the Catholic Church has been present in my life ever since. However, it wasn't until this year that I participated for the first time at the Catholic Social Gathering in Washington, D.C., through the USCCB, that I had like a clear understanding of what Catholic social teaching is about. And it was very helpful for me um, because I learned how to take action in some of the social issues that we are facing now. So I have worked with several groups, Catholic groups, for the last 10 years probably. And I've been like a community leader, but also with a vision of a lawyer. So I've been trying to incorporate the social ingredient in my presentations. Um, because I firmly believe that the gospel is calling us to be salt and light of the world. So that means that we need to make a difference in a modern society that is more interested now in increasing the economic wealth of a few, transgressing the rights of others, who by they are becoming a majority. That's the people that we call poor, or in Catholic social teaching, the most vulnerable. So, yeah.
But you say when you were in law school. And so for people like me who may feel like, oh, did I miss something? The pieces of Catholic social teaching have been around for a long time, but actually put in a package that was more easily digestible. For some of us, it didn't come until later in life, even though we were always trying to, respect the person and, try to do what was right, not just for, the immediate people around us, like our family, but for even those that we didn't know, we were trying to serve the common good. And so after you got the more formal in law school and then kind of paired that with what you wanted to do as a lawyer, you continued on. And so now this position you have is an extension of that, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like this is the call of the Lord that is encouraged each one of us to take the gospel and make it like a reality in our lives. Being a lawyer and, like you said, learn about the social doctrine of the church in the past, and having this position now is like, if I'm trying to explain in simple words, is like I've been thought about the social doctrine of the church at a different level. But now that I'm seeing my work and my service with the people here in Indianapolis, um, I can see the reality of our people. Speaking with about the Latino and Hispanic community, what's their reality, and what the popes along the history have been talking about, to become like more more realistic and closer to the people who is in need.
I mean, there's some in your ministry. I mean, you can touch on so many of the principles under Catholic social teaching. Um, Options for the poor and vulnerable. Not to say that, all, you know, Spanish-speaking people or Latino or Latinx people are poor and vulnerable, but the way that society is set up, a lot of the advantages go to people who aren't black and brown, economic, social standing, those type of things. Also, solidarity, us feeling when our brother is in need, what can we do? Brother or sisters are in need, what can we do for them? Promoting the common good. And then, of course, the what everything is kind of under the umbrella of, respecting human dignity. And I think you said something very important, recognizing the situation, that black and brown people may be in, and seeing them where they are, what they need, and how can we help them individually. And so while, when we think of outreach ministries, we think of promoting the common good, and we, think of, human dignity. Solidarity is a huge part of that.
Yeah, solidarity is a, I would say, like one of the main ingredients when we do ministry, and this kind of ministry when we serve to the Spanish-speaking community, because sometimes we are not aware of the situations that our people is going through, and especially when we are talking about migrants, that's a different world, because the people who is migrating to United States from different countries in Latin America, they come to United States for different reasons. So try to understand every single person. It's sometimes it's very challenging, but is a necessity as well, because we are leaders of the church, so we are the face of the church, and how these people is trying to understand what the church have for them is like, if we are the disciples of Jesus who are trying to encourage people to believe in the gospel. So Jesus is always talking about the importance of get to the people in a simple way, and try to live this humanity, understanding others. So living that words in our lives is a good way to introduce the real Jesus to the people who is in need. So of course, solidarity is going to be part of our work, of our service, from our position, because we need to understand the wholeness of the person. Of course, I have goals that I want to approach as Hispanic Ministry Coordinator, when we are talking about evangelizing or catechesis. I want the people to know about the teachings of the church, but I also need to show interest of the human person that I am serving to. So I need to understand the wholeness of the person, and sometimes I just need to listen what they need to say, and that's important. They just need to be here.
I mean, sometimes it's hard to teach if people can't listen because they have so many other things, weighing on their minds. You mentioned immigrants. Most people don't leave home and family unless they have a really good, compelling reason. There are a few people out there who love adventure and they want to try something new. But for the most part, when we're talking about people who are refugees or immigrants or who've been forced to flee or who are seeking asylum, it's because the situation that they left became so unbearable or untenable that they felt like they had no other choice. And so if we don't listen to those things that made them leave, how can we go to that next step to, try to proselytize or even teach about the differences between, living where they came from and living here and how life, the obstacles they might encounter if we don't first see what they need and what brought them here. And unfortunately, a lot of people, I think, put everybody in one camp. Oh, well, America's wonderful and it's great. And of course people want to be here. And if so many people come, then we won't have enough for everybody who's already here. Well, there's a lot of fallacies in that statement.
Yeah.
No, people don't want to come here because America's great and wonderful. It's because what they had wasn't great because of circumstances beyond their control.
Yeah, and there is a good part in this conversation, because, well, I will speak for myself. I already mentioned that I am from Nicaragua, and you are probably aware of the situation and the crisis that we are living through in my country. And there is thousands of people who are fleeing our country due to the social and political crisis. So understand every single person.
I'm just going to interject. People, because our history is very limited in the United States, most of the reasons that people are leaving, Central America or South American countries is because of American intervention years ago that destabilized or messed up the systems that were there.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's another topic. But you're right.
But if you have questions, take a look at the book Open Veins in Spanish or in English, and it'll talk about American intervention.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And now we are living the consequence of that politic crisis that years ago we have been dealing with. And like I mentioned, in my country, is it's very, very sad what is going on right now.
And dangerous to be an educated person such as yourself who could question authority and...
Exactly. Even like you said, for an educated person, is a challenge to live in a country where rights are not being respected. As a lawyer, and I work for the government for several years, the decision that me and my family made and moving to United States was probably one of the hardest decisions that we've made ever. But we felt how the Lord was calling us to take that decision, to make that big change in our lives, because I was not feeling fulfilled with my profession. By then I was serving to the church as well, and the crisis that we're living, this troubles that we are having within the government and the Catholic Church in my country. So it's a mess. It's a mess. The system is a mess. So I wasn't feeling happy serving to the church and also working for the government. It was, it wasn't the way that I expect to be when I graduated from college. I really wanted to serve people, to defend people's rights, and it wasn't it wasn't the way that I expected. So yeah, so just imagine for an educated person how complicated it is to make your life in a country like Nicaragua right now. But now when you see all these people that is probably with a very low level of education, people who works in the fields, it's more complicated because the economy is getting worse. We have an inflation in Nicaragua, so the people is experiencing several issues in different areas like politic, economic. The people who is part of the Catholic Church is experiencing persecution as well. So is like you were saying is a huge world of realities that we need to understand when we talk about Catholic social teaching.
For people who aren't familiar with, with the ministry that you're in charge of, how would you explain it to them?
That's a good question. Well, I would like to respond to this. First, something that I've find out is the Catholic social teachings principles are not of easy understanding among our Hispanic community. Probably because
Not
of the
just Hispanic community,
oh,
which is one of the reasons we're doing this.
It's good to know.
These conversations.
Yeah, probably because of the terminology that is being used on those official documents of the church, which is paradoxical with their reality. Because our Hispanic and Latino, they don't need to understand the concepts because they live the concepts, they suffer the concepts.
Yeah. But to help with that, maybe you could come back and you could do some 3 to 5 minutes in Spanish.
Do you want to do it in Spanish, like now?
You can do a little, yes.
Yeah, so considero que una parte importante en el ejercicio del CST o la doctrina social de la Iglesia, las enseñanzas de la doctrina social de la Iglesia, es entender qué tan fundamentales son. Porque en realidad la dignidad del ser humano es un derecho inalienable. Es decir, es un derecho que nos corresponde por el simple hecho de haber nacido. Por lo tanto, hablar de dignidad y hablar de también el resto de los principios como son el de solidaridad y opción por los pobres, todos están interconectados, es decir, todos tienen una relación entre sí que culminan en la búsqueda del bien común. And I was talking about how the principles...
And that sounded a whole lot better when he said it in Spanish than I tried to say it in that roundabout way in English. Thank you.
Yeah, so I was talking about how all the principles are connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one to another. And the search of the common good is probably the result of all of them. So it would be good to understand when we're talking about the human dignity, that the rights, for example, the right of life, it's attached to the human person from the moment of his or her conception. So for our communities, the Spanish-speaking communities, sometimes we need to speak in a simple way for them to understand. That way will give us an opportunity to caught their attention. Because when we talk about terminology and all different concepts, people is not receiving, is not we are not addressing the message in the right way. So
And I
we,
and I think that's something that we all can do, not, with anyone that we're talking to about Catholic social teaching and why we do what we do, be they English speaking or Spanish speaking, things that are common to us and we talk about every day now. Other people don't do that. And so a simple, relatable message, I think, is good for all of us to remember.
sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Um, if you would like to come back and do, some segments just in Spanish, so that could be posted, we would be happy to do that.
Of course. Yeah, I'd love to do that. Yeah. And thank you very much for inviting me.
Gracias para todo.